I am a recovering house flipper, house wholesaler. This is going to be, hey, this I'm going to share what I've learned, why I think land investing is the most undiscovered niche in real estate, and some receipts to kind of show that, right? This is why I love it. I've been in the wholesaling house flipping business, and land investing is 10x, 15x less competitive than flipping houses. So if you've had some ever thoughts of, hey, I want to use the same strategies that I've learned using DealMachine to find houses and use it to find land, you'll probably get a better yield. So this is going to make me over $3 million of gross profit this year. How to make six figures with less than 10 hours per week of work. For most entrepreneurs, that's never enough. So whenever I see like things like this, I'm like, really, can I work for 10 hours a week and do this? Like if you track your time, yes, you absolutely can. But for most of the people on this call, I guarantee you guys are all hustlers. So you would never settle for 10 hours per week. You're going to be like, how do I do 100 hours per week so I can make more money? But you can do this on 10 hours per week. So I literally had to build this business when my family, my finances were on an absolute nose plummet to the bottom. Hey, I got to make money. I got to pay for my life. I have no income. My wife had no income. And I did it all through land investing and very, very, very quickly. The reason why is there's this arbitrage, this information arbitrage that still exists. If you live in downtown Los Angeles and you have a home there, you've lived in there 20 years, everyone knows the high equity absentee owner list, right? Tax delinquent. Everyone's calling that list. Everyone's calling it. These people know they can look at Zillow and they know exactly what their property's worth. Try to find a Zillow listing for land. It doesn't exist. There's still an information arbitrage that exists that allows us as investors, as business owners and operators to create massive amounts of value very, very quickly. This is a system I'm going to talk about here today, and I'm going to get to it here in a second, that I built through consistency, through experience and success. What I'm going to talk about today is this is what I did. This is how I built it and how you can apply it to your business. So I'm going to talk about 3 secrets. Number 1, finding profitable land deals in your own backyard or across the county from your laptop. You can do that literally after this call. You can literally, so take notes. You can literally do that after this call. How to get consistent leads no matter the market condition and build a cash generating monster. I wouldn't be able to say this when it comes to house wholesaling and flipping. It's just so much more competitive. And then how to build an acquisition system that generates $100,000 in revenue that requires fewer than 7 hours of your time per week, right? Secret number 1. Number 1, model your competitors, right? Find areas in the United States using Zillow. I mean, there's tons of better ways to do this now, but you find your competitors. Is there the most amount of people that are transacting in land? We can assume that those are good markets to transact in. Now, our model is not wholesaling to builders. Our model is rural recreational land. We buy land an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours outside of major metro areas. Why? There's less competition, and it's just as quick. So we want to model your competitors. So go on Zillow. You can look at for sale and sold comps. I'm going to go into this in a second, but you literally can copy and paste this, right? Number 2, after you find out where the competitors, think about California. Where are the most amount of potential buys and sells, right? Big counties, big areas, right? We want to take the big counties and big areas, and we want to go 1 or 2 steps out of these counties. Miami-Dade, everyone and their mother's trying to wholesale infill lots to builders here, right? You want to go 1 or 2 maybe counties over that still have a lot of activity. So you use the competitors of these are the holes, the honey holes. And I'm going to go a little bit outside of these honey holes. Now, this is completely free. You don't need software. You literally can do this today. Of course, there's software to do it now, but this is the high level of how to actually find these good areas. So then you say, how do I actually do this on the highest level, the macro level? I'm literally going to show you. So you pick a state. There's a guy that said, hey, I'm from Florida. Okay, you pick Florida, right? I'm going to focus on Florida. Of course, we know that Florida is a competitive state, but that means there's also a lot of velocity, right? Second, to pick an area. You pick a county, right? Don't pick Miami-Dade County. It's going to be incredibly competitive. And we're trying to get outside of the competition. We're trying to find literally areas that no one is competing in, right? I would rather compete against a bunch of people that are unsophisticated buyers than I would people in the biggest cities, right? New York City real estate, I don't want to compete there. Right? This is common too, guys. This is not just in real estate. I mean, think about all the people that you see on your social media feeds that's like, I'm buying a business. There's such an amazing opportunity in business because there's all these old baby boomers that are retiring, right? It's the same exact thing in land, right? With houses, there are people that are starter homes. I've owned it for 5 years, 10 years. There's a way more people that are of that demographic. But our primary demographic is 60, 55, 75 years old. These people have barely received marketing from people. They're older people, right? And they're ready to sell. They're ready to divest of their assets. And so we go into these markets outside of the large, super competitive markets, and we find honey holes within these markets where we're competing against one or two or three other buyers instead of competing against everyone, real estate brokers, hedge funds, private equity companies, other wholesalers, house flippers, and first-time home buyers. I don't want to compete like that. I want there to be three people. And so then I pick an area, a small area, right? Then I figure out how many pieces of land have sold over the past year. I can use Zillow. This is totally free, right? So I figure out on Zillow, I say, okay, maybe there's 100 pieces of land that have sold over the past year. Then I figure out how many pieces of land is on the market. Let's say there's 100 pieces of land on the market, right? On in for sale, right? In the same acreage range. Let's just say 5 to 100 acres, right? Step 5, for example, if there's 918 sold and there's 409 listed, that's an amazing ratio. That's over a 200% sell-through rate, right? You want to find a market that's over a year period, right? And you can use the Zillow filters for over a year, that is at least 150% sell-through rate. Why is this important? I'm not going to be the person that's going to tell you land is illiquid. It's not true, right? We can all feel that the markets, that, you know, the general real estate market is moving a lot slower. So even though we know the real estate market is moving slower, we can still find areas where land is a liquid asset. And that's what we're trying to target, guys. We want to focus on selling land quickly because it is historically a illiquid asset, and in bad market conditions, it's going to move slower. So we want to find these markets with these fast sell-through rates because we can move our cash quicker, and that's the entire name of the game. It's just like you wouldn't go in the worst neighborhood in your city and say, I'm going to create this amazing product and bring this amazing product to the market, right? You wouldn't. Right? Because you knew that wouldn't be that buyer pool. Markets with low sell-through rates means that there's not a big buyer pool from the land that you're selling. And what you do is you get stuck with this land for months and months and months, and it prevents you from scaling. So that's literally, you can do that tomorrow. You can go and use DealMachine. You can pull this data, skip trace them, and call these people right now, and you can build a land business off this right now. But the next thing, you're gonna be like, okay, so how do I get consistent leads no matter the market condition? Most important thing is the clean data. That's super, super important. So I'm gonna emphasize that. The right data is the most important thing, right? It's the top of the funnel, right? That is the most important thing. Most people will get into the business, or they're in the business and they think they have to do literally everything. Oh, I heard on a podcast, I got to do texting, I got to call, I got to do RVMs, I got to do PPC, I got to do direct mail, whatever. The reality is that's like saying, you know what? I'm going to get my PhD in texting and RVMs and cold calling and direct mail and PPC all at the same time. No one does that. People focus on one specific product. So I always tell people, focus on one channel into $1 million. And then after that, you can change. You can also change your asset class. One asset class to $1 million, then you can add additional things. What we do is we literally develop land. So we'll entitle land and sell it to national builders. We'll develop and do big subdivides, and we can create hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of values through that. But we focus on one channel. Right? The best way to do this, even if it's in your own wholesaling business, because you might say, someone might be saying, hey, I'm cold calling, and then you hear a friend that's texting, and you hear a friend that's doing direct mail, and you want to do it all at the same time. But it requires immense amounts of focus and precision to get really good. So whatever business you're in, focus on one channel and get really good at it. Right? Texting, cold calling, direct mail, whatever you want to do. Talk with an attorney, make sure it's all compliant. But I see these are the best channels to use. Even more important, the reason why people fail in land investing, in house flipping, and in general, and I'm sure Matt can attest to this, is they get super excited and they don't have a budget and they spend all their money in 2 months and they're not consistent over 6 months. They jack they're calling up, they get super excited. I'm going to send out 15,000 pieces of direct mail. for 3 months, and then I'm going to send out 2,000 for the rest because I ran out of money. So set the monthly budget and then consistently send out mail. I mean, this is kind of a universal principle, right? Dollar cost average in the S&P 500. So let me set an expectation. Let's literally go through what you can expect with direct mail because we're in the sales and marketing business, right? I don't know if this applies to house wholesaling, but this does apply to land. People say this is the same exact principle with the 6-month principle that I was talking about. I sent out 10,000 mailers and I didn't get anything, right? I called for a month and I didn't get anything. I mean, Matt's probably heard this a billion times, right? Some campaigns underperform and others kill it. That's the reality. So here's the numbers. We're going to assume that by the way, you can rip this off. We're going to go after parcels that are within a $10,000 to $100,000 range. We're going to go after rural recreational. We're going to assume we have good copy and a strong offer. We're going to assume we have a strong sales process, which I'll go through in a second. 10,000 letters. We're going to 10 to 30 in Santa Rosa County. We should see a 0.04% response rate, which would mean about 40 inbound leads. We should close about 5% of these within the first 30 days, which means with 10,000 letters, we get 2 closed deals. That means 1 deal per 5,000 letters spent. With our discounted direct mail pieces, it's about 53 cents to 55 cents per letter. This has gone up a little bit in data. Depending on the data that you use, it could be way cheaper than this. But let's just assume that the total cost is $5,800 and the cost per deal is $2,900. We make an average of $20K per deal. That's a 6.94x ROAS. That's almost a 700% return on our money. Now you might say, oh, Clay, yeah, great. I'm going to go do this tomorrow. What if your first month you can't sustain this? And then you drop down to 2,000. That's the thing that I was talking about earlier. You need to sustain this. This is sustained numbers. This might not be your first month. The second month, you might get 3 deals or 4 deals. But these is what I'm seeing currently in the market. 1 out of every 5,000 mailers, right? You can see how quickly you can scale this business, right? House wholesaling, man, 10,000 letters, you might get 1 deal, maybe, right? This just accounts, though, for the deals that you get in the first 30 days. What if you have a killer sales process, a good CRM, and you can follow up with people? I see it's about 20K per deal is average, and we get multiple 6-figure deals at a time. So if you just market consistently using direct mail over a period of time, you can see how exciting it is to scale. This business becomes a conveyor belt of cash. So if you ingest $5,000 per month and spend $60,000 per year in marketing, right? That's $416K. I can't guarantee these results, but like it's only a ROAS equation, which goes back to my point is you just focus on one channel, the same exact thing as house wholesaling. Because the first, second, third month, you might not get the results that you want, but if you focus on getting a good copy and a good delivery, the type of direct mail piece, man, you can get to this ROAS. I'm seeing it across the board with my private clients and in general. So imagine that you spend $5,000, $8,000 a month on just direct mail, and you can return this amount in a year. Like that's life changing for a lot of people. I'll ask you, how would this impact your life? Obviously huge. It impacted my life. Here's the acquisition system. I'm going to move quickly through this. So you can do live call answering service. You can do this. You don't need to for land. You can call the seller back, go through our qualification script, which I'll show you here in a second. You underwrite the deal 10 to 15 minutes. You offer 10 to 15 minutes. You send the contract to the seller and your title company 10 to 15 minutes. Is it always this easy? No. I hate when people like do these it only takes this amount of time to do this. It's like, it's going to take more time, but these are general. If you have a good qualification call, it's going to take 15 minutes, underwrite the deal 15, offer 15, contract the title company maybe 15. So you get those 40 calls in per month. You spend an average of 40 minutes with each one because they don't all close. That's 6.66 hours per week. So here's live call answering service. You can use Pat Live. You don't necessarily need this if you don't want to, right? You can use Pat Live. Here's the script. Introductory questions, setting expectations, motivation, property condition, and setting expectations. You can just screenshot this if you want to. This is just a general script. And then you underwrite it, right? The key thing is checking for comps in the area. This is where most people fall down and in similar acreage range. So we use acreage bands. So 2 to 5 acres, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 50, 50 to 100, and 100 plus. It's how we comp these pieces of land. You want to make sure that the property is access. There's no wetlands, FEMA floodplains. It's not sloped. It's really buildable. That's what we're looking for. We always like to look for Google Street View. And then offer call, you can screenshot this. Really, really basic offer call script. You're getting on a call with the seller. You're offering, and if you offer to enough sellers, as those experienced real estate investors know, like you're going to get deals. So Land investing is special because it's way less competitive than wholesaling and house flipping, but this works in house wholesaling. If you're like, dude, I'm not going to change what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to focus on getting really good at house wholesaling. Great, good for you, man. Like, good for you. Do that. Like, get really good. That's what the key is. But if you want to do land investing, this is my entire plan. This is what my goal is. Generate the money, amplify it, multiply it, scale.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.